Hey guys, this is Roxann Smithers, your trusted 360 General Counsel, and this is another note from my Legalpad. So today we're going to be talking about the Corporate Transparency Act and its beneficial ownership information reporting requirement. It's definitely a mouthful. But you may have heard things about this new requirement on the news, in publications. You may have received some notification from maybe an attorney or a CPA or other business support services. So essentially, January 1 of 2024, the federal government has a new requirement for the vast majority of business owners and entrepreneurs. And that is going to be gathering and providing information about the ownership and control of their business entities. So if you have a limited liability company or you're familiar with those types of entity structures, one of the attractive features of an LLC has been anonymity. In most states, formation and registration of an LLC does not require disclosure of the owners or the officers of that entity. And for various reasons, both legitimate and not so legitimate, owners of businesses may not want to broadcast their ownership. Whether there are general legitimate concerns regarding privacy or nefarious desires to avoid civil or criminal liability, people have availed themselves of this feature. As such, it has been difficult to identify assets to enforce judgments or confirm net worth in the civil context. And additionally, it can be difficult to trace financial or criminal wrongdoing to the actual bad actors. And that can happen with a lot of the corporate structures, but in particular, the limited liability company structure. So the federal government has decided to make things a little easier on itself by creating the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN. Now I want you to try saying that 5 times fast. But in summary, the U.S. Treasury Department will require as I said, the vast majority of LLCs, along with C and S corporations, to report specific information about the business. Now, this is going to include information identifying the ownership of the company. And this is not necessarily a new thing for shareholders of S Corps and C Corps, but it will definitely be a big change for the members of LLCs. So we've got a little bit of a rundown of this new requirement. As I said, this is coming from the United States Department of Treasury, and it is enacted under the Corporate Transparency Act. And there's a specific rule in that act for the Financial Crimes and Enforcement Network. So, as of January 1, 2024, all businesses that were formed before that date are required by the end of the year, January 1 of 2025, to report ownership information for their entities. And if you form a new business after January 1 of 2024, you have 30 days from the formation of that business to report the same information on behalf of your entity. So there have been questions about who this rule applies to. So generally speaking, this rule is going to apply to any entity that has to file a formation document with a state authority as part of its formation or registration, either in that state or as a foreign entity doing business in the United States. So if when you set up your business, you have to register and set up that business with the Secretary of State or some other state office in your specific jurisdiction, then you have to comply with this new law. So that's generally going to be C corporations, S corporations, B corporations, partnerships where those two are registered, as well as limited liability companies, limited partnerships, and limited liability partnerships, to the extent those entities are registered with a state actor when they are formed. What are not required, generally speaking, are sole proprietorships or general partnerships that do not require that registration with a state entity. Now, there are 23 categories of exceptions and exemptions to this rule. And most of them involve inactive entities, nonprofit organizations, or entities that are already subject to federal reporting and regulations. And that can include financial institutions and government entities. So you'd have to look at that list of the exceptions to see. But for the most part, the average business and the average business owner is going to have to comply with the Corporate Transparency Act and the beneficial ownership information reporting requirement. So you're going to be wondering what information is required. Well, for your business, you are required to provide the legal name of your business. That's the name with which you register your business when you created your business in its home state or its state of birth. You'll also have to provide any trade names or nicknames or service names that you're using, or DBAs, doing business as. Any nickname or other name that you use for your business in commerce that is different from that legal name. You have to include that. You have to provide an address for your business, as well as identify the state in which it was originally formed. And you'll also have to provide your employer identification number or tax identification number. Those are the same number. And if you've seen some of our other videos, you know that that's essentially the Social Security number for your business. Okay? Now, the big difference here is the information that you're going to have to provide for the owners of the business. Any owner that has at least 25% ownership of the business, or who has substantial control, directly or indirectly, of that business, must identify themselves to the federal government. And that's where the wiggle room. So there's 25%, but if you have 10%, but you are the managing member, or you have some other level of control, or you have more of the voting interest or the day-to-day operations of the business, then you have to be identified as well. Here's what's required. Your legal name is required. Your date of birth is required. Your home address is required. Then you also have to provide the number for an identifying document, whether that is your driver's license, your passport number, your state ID number. Then you have to provide a picture of that identifying document. So if you use your driver's license number as part of this reporting, then they're going to want a picture of your driver's license. If you use your passport number, they're going to want a picture of your passport, and that has to be uploaded and provided. Okay? If there are changes in your information, or particularly in the ownership and control of the entity, under the statute, you have 30 days to make those changes, or if there are corrections that need to be made. 30 days to make corrections once you are aware of those corrections, or you're aware that the changes are needed. Now, failure to comply can result in civil liability of $500 per day, as well as criminal penalties up to $10,000 or 2 years in jail. So they have a serious hammer out on this statute and compliance with this statute. Now, you may have also seen in the news recently some challenges to this statute. So there was a lawsuit in federal court in Alabama, okay? And on March 1st of 2024, the Alabama federal court found that the Corporate Transparency Act was unconstitutional. Now, that ruling is being appealed by the Treasury Department and other entities of the federal government and is ongoing. But while that ruling is in effect, it doesn't remove the requirement to comply for a couple reasons. First reason, the rule only applies to businesses that were members of the plaintiff organization. That's the National Small Business Association as of March 1st, 2024. So if you had a membership in the National Small Business Association as of March 1st, 2024, then for now, you do not have to comply with this. But if you were not a member before that date, you still have to comply, okay? Second, as I said, the Department of Justice and the Treasury Department have filed an appeal of this ruling, and this is going to work its way through the courts. In the interim, this statute still applies. while that appeal is working its way through the courts. So you want to make sure that you stay on the right side of this this ruling. Now, there's a very simple, moderately straightforward process on the U.S. Treasury's website where you can submit your information. And you would go to fincen.gov, okay? FINCEN.gov. They've got instructions for you to file your information online, as well as a form that you can download and complete and then upload with your picture of your ID to complete the form. And of course, there are many resources out there that are available to assist business owners and companies with their filing if they're not sure about how to navigate the process on their own. And fincen.gov also provides a small business guide to try to help explain the process, help you figure out if any of the exemptions apply to you, and to go through the filing process. But of course, if there are any questions, you can always reach out to your trusted 360 General Counsel to help guide you through this formation process. So if you'd like more information about the attorneys at the Smithers Law Group, you can reach us at stulawgroup.com. You can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, like and subscribe to our channel, and look out for our next note in our legal pad.